Okay, so you know how sometimes you're like staring at your to-do list and it just feels never ending, like longer than a CVS receipt?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
It's procrastination, right? That universal feeling of, I'll just do it later, but then later never really
Yeah,
comes.
later turns into, oh no, I need to do it right now.
Exactly, a panic scam. We actually got a listener question about procrastination, and I have to say, this deep dive, it's for anyone who's ever felt that like nagging feeling of, I should be doing something else right now.
That's all of us, right?
Seriously, it's like the universal human experience. But the question is, why do we put things off, even when we know it's not a good idea?
Well, it's funny, people think procrastination is just about being lazy or lacking willpower,
Right? Like, just get it done.
but it's actually way more complex than that. It's this like fascinating mix of how our brains work, our emotions, and sometimes, even those like sneaky psychological patterns that we don't even realize we're repeating.
So it's more like a battle that's happening inside our heads. Because this excerpt mentions the prefrontal cortex and the limbic system. It sounds pretty intense. Can you break that down for us? Like, which part of my brain is the actual procrastination culprit?
Okay, so imagine, just picture your brain as a company.
Okay, I can see that.
The prefrontal cortex, that's like your super organized project manager. All about planning, making decisions, keeping things on track, keeping those impulses in check.
Right, like the responsible one.
Exactly. It's the voice that's like, hey, we got to get this done. Let's focus.
Okay, got it.
But then you have the limbic system. Think of that as like the team member who's always up for a good time.
Oh, I know that one.
Right. Driven by emotions, wants that instant gratification.
So that's the one that sees a notification pop up, and suddenly I'm like, oh, reorganizing my sock drawer seems really important right now.
Yes, that's the limbic system in action. It's all about what feels good right now, not thinking about deadlines or consequences. And to make things even trickier, there's a whole reward system involved.
Ah, ooh, that doesn't sound good.
So you see, when we do something enjoyable, our brain, it releases dopamine. And that makes us, feel good.
Okay, so the good feeling is the reward.
Right. So every time we choose to procrastinate and do something fun instead of like tackling that task, we're actually reinforcing that behavior.
Oh, so we're actually training our brains to love procrastination. Okay, that's a little scary. But knowing this, what's like a quick way we can use this to our advantage, besides, hiding all the fun distractions?
Well, one thing you could try is like pairing a dreaded task with like a small reward afterwards.
Oh, so like if I finish this report, then I get to watch an episode of my favorite show.
Exactly. You're essentially tapping into that dopamine boost, but in a way that's actually helping you, not hindering you.
Okay, that's a great tip. I'm going to try that. Now, let's dive a little deeper into like the why behind procrastination, because we talked about instant gratification, but what else is going on?
So our source material, it highlights a few really common culprits that you're probably going to find very familiar.
Okay, lay it on me.
Fear of failure, perfectionism, lack of motivation, poor time management. These are all big players in the procrastination game.
Okay, so let's start with fear of failure. I think that one is so relatable. It's like that feeling of, what if I put in all this effort and it's not even good enough? Sometimes it just feels easier to avoid it altogether.
Oh, absolutely. And you know what? It's almost like self-sabotage, isn't it?
Right, it's like I'm getting in my own way.
It is. It is in a way. And it goes back to that limbic system wanting to protect us from negative emotions.
So it's like a defense mechanism.
Exactly. Avoiding a task that could lead to potential failure, disappointment, criticism. That's the brain's way of trying to like keep us safe, even if it ends up hurting us in the long run.
So it's like my brain is playing defense, but in the wrong game.
Yeah, you could say that.
And then there's perfectionism, which I definitely struggle with. It's that feeling that everything has to be perfect, and it makes it almost impossible to even start.
I get that. Perfectionism, it sets the bar so high, it's almost like trying to reach a star. You can keep reaching, but you'll never quite get there.
Yeah, it feels unattainable.
Right. And because of that, it becomes easier to just avoid starting at all. Because, if you never try, you can't fail.
Oh, that's a good point. But I have a feeling that avoidance comes with its own consequences.
Oh, for sure. Which brings us to the price we pay for procrastination.
And it's more than just, feeling guilty or a little bit stressed, right?
It can be a lot more serious than that.
This excerpt mentions some pretty serious consequences.
Yeah, I mean, increased stress and anxiety are huge. And not just in a feeling way, it actually triggers a physiological response. Your body goes into stress mode.
Oh, wow. So it's a real physical reaction.
And then on top of that, the hit to our productivity, those missed deadlines, even, damaged self-esteem.
Ouch, that's rough.
Yeah, it all starts to build up.
So procrastination is basically a recipe for disaster. We're talking sleep problems, health issues, and feeling generally unhappy.
Yeah, you could say that.
Not exactly a great trade-off for those few minutes of like scrolling through social media. So, okay, we understand the why, but what about the how do we fix this? Because I feel like I'm stuck in this procrastination loop. Any hope would be great right now.
That's where this deep dive gets really empowering. Because this source material, it doesn't just tell us about the problem, it gives us, actionable strategies to tackle procrastination head on.
Okay, now we're talking.
And believe me, there is hope.
All right, bring on the solutions. We are ready for part two. All right, so we've identified the enemy, procrastination. Now let's talk weapons. What are some of those strategies for breaking this procrastination cycle? I'm ready to fight back.
Okay, well, one strategy that I personally find super helpful is the 2-minute rule.
The 2-minute rule.
Yeah, it's incredibly simple, but don't underestimate its power.
Okay, tell me more.
Basically, if you have a task that takes less than 2 minutes to complete, do it right away. Don't even think about it. Don't put it on a list. Just do it.
So things like answering a quick email, or finally putting away those dishes that have been sitting on my desk for a while, or making that phone call I've been putting off. It sounds almost too easy.
It is easy. And that's kind of the BB of it.
I like easy.
These small wins, they might seem insignificant, but they really start to build momentum.
Okay, I see.
You're creating a sense of accomplishment, and that can be a really powerful motivator.
So it's like tricking my brain into feeling productive, which then makes me want to be even more productive. I like it. What about those bigger tasks, though? The ones that just feel totally overwhelming? Like, just thinking about them makes me want to take a nap.
I hear you. Those are tough. That's where breaking things down helps. Take those large tasks and break them down into smaller, more manageable steps.
Right, make it less scary.
Exactly. It's so much easier to face a bite-sized piece of a project than this whole intimidating thing.
It's like that saying, right? How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Suddenly that giant project doesn't seem so scary anymore. Okay, so we're breaking things down. We're checking off those 2-minute tasks. What else? I need all the help I can get.
Deadlines?
Deadlines.
Setting clear deadlines can be a game changer.
I don't know. Deadlines and I have a complicated relationship.
It might seem obvious, but a lot of people, they try to work without any real sense of urgency.
True, I do that sometimes.
So creating that external pressure, even if it's self-imposed, can be incredibly motivating.
Okay, I see what you mean. If I know I have to get something done by a certain time, it definitely lights a fire under me. Speaking of distractions, though, how do I actually focus once I get started? My phone is like a black hole for my attention.
Eliminating distractions, that is absolutely crucial. And it starts with, being honest with yourself about what your biggest culprits are.
Oh, so is it. Social media, email notifications, that online shopping tab I keep refreshing.
All of the above, maybe.
You know me too well.
But really, it's about creating an environment where you can truly focus.
Focus, focus, focus.
Put your phone on airplane mode. Turn off those notifications. Maybe even try some website blockers.
Seriously.
Some people swear by, phone jail.
Phone jail.
Literally putting their phone in a designated spot, away from their workspace.
I love that. Phone jail it is. Okay, I'm focused. Distractions are gone. But how do I stay productive? I tend to burn out pretty quickly.
Have you ever tried the Pomodoro technique?
The Pomodoro technique. That rings a bell. Remind me how that works again?
Sure. It's all about working in short, focused bursts.
Okay, so like sprints.
Yeah, usually you set a timer for 25 minutes of focused work, followed by a 5-minute break.
Okay, that sounds manageable.
It's a great way to, maintain concentration and prevent mental fatigue.
So it's like interval training, but for my brain.
Exactly.
I like that. And I'm guessing those 5-minute breaks, they're a good opportunity for a little reward, right?
Absolutely. Don't underestimate the power of rewards.
Rewards are my favorite part.
It goes back to that, dopamine system we talked about. When you reward yourself for completing a task, you're basically reinforcing that positive behavior.
So whether it's like a cup of coffee, a walk outside, or listening to my favorite podcast, it all counts.
Exactly. A little something to look forward to.
I can't argue with that. But this excerpt all mentions some deeper mindset shifts that can help with procrastination. It talks about developing a growth mindset. What does that even mean?
A growth mindset is really about reframing how you think about failure.
Okay, failure.
Instead of seeing it as something to be feared, it's about seeing it as an opportunity for growth and learning.
Okay, so instead of beating myself up for procrastinating, I should think of it as like a chance to learn how to do things differently next time.
Exactly. It's about being kind to yourself and focusing on progress, not perfection.
Progress, not perfection. I like that.
And speaking of support, let's not forget about accountability.
Accountability. You mean like having someone to check in with and make sure I'm actually getting things done.
Right.
I have to admit, sometimes just knowing that someone else is aware of my goals, it's a huge motivator.
It's true. Sharing your goals with someone you trust And having them check in with you, it can provide that extra push we all need sometimes.
Okay, so it's like a teamwork approach to productivity.
Exactly. It's about leveraging that social support and not just relying on willpower, which, let's face it, can be pretty unreliable.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here. We've explored the science, the causes, and now a whole bunch of strategies to combat procrastination. I'm feeling hopeful, but also a little bit overwhelmed. Where do we go from here? What's the next step? Okay, so we've got all these amazing tools to like fight procrastination, but knowing what to do, that's only half the battle, right?
You're absolutely right. It's like having a fancy cookbook, but never actually trying any of the recipes.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely guilty of that.
The key is to take action. And I think a good starting point is self-awareness.
Self-awareness, huh?
Yeah, like figuring out your own personal procrastination
So
patterns.
like becoming a procrastination detective.
Exactly. What are your biggest triggers? When are you most likely to procrastinate? What are your go-to, like, avoidance tactics?
Okay, so identify the problem areas.
Once you understand those patterns, you can start experimenting with the strategies and see what works best for you.
So, like, maybe the 2-minute rule will be my secret weapon, or maybe breaking tasks down into smaller steps will be the game changer,
Right. It's all about finding what works best for you.
not a one-size-fits-all solution.
Exactly.
But what about those, like, inevitable slip-ups? Let's be real. I'm probably going to procrastinate again at some point.
And that's okay. Don't let those slip-ups derail you. It's a journey, not a destination.
Okay, so be kind to myself.
Yeah, the key is to not beat yourself up. When you procrastinate, just acknowledge it, learn from it, and get back on track.
So progress over perfection.
Exactly.
I can definitely get on board with that. So for someone who's ready to, like, break free from procrastination, but feeling a little overwhelmed, what's a good first step?
Start small. Don't try to change everything overnight. Just pick one strategy that resonates with you and commit to trying it today.
One strategy today.
Maybe it's setting a timer for 25 minutes and doing a focused work sprint,
Okay, I can do that.
or identifying like one major distraction you can eliminate.
Phone jail.
Exactly, phone jail. Even small changes can have a ripple effect.
I love that. Small changes, big impact. I'm definitely feeling more motivated to tackle my to-do list now. Before we wrap up, any final words of wisdom for our listeners?
Here's a question to ponder as you go about your day. Knowing what we now know about procrastination, what's one small step you can take today to break free from its grip? Write it down, tell a friend, or just make a silent commitment to yourself. Remember, you have the power to change.
That's such a great point. It's not about, becoming some kind of productivity machine. It's about understanding ourselves,
Absolutely.
making conscious choices, and building habits that help us live a more fulfilling life.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So until next time, everyone, happy diving. And remember, even small steps can lead to big changes.